Yes. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. My people, what is up? Happy end. Oh my gosh, Joe. Joe, I have some sparkles for you as always, my friend, as always. Welcome. I'm letting Erica in. Hi, my people. It's so great to see Dina again. It's great to see Aaron again. Barry, it's great to see you. I'm gonna mute you. Guys, what's up? How's everyone doing? Randy's here. We got Charlotte. I got John. Great to see everyone. Antoinette, thanks for coming. Frederick, hello. You look great in your Zoom square. Thanks for being with us. Peter, Taft, hello. Hi. Tony, making my day by being here with us at Edge. All right, beautiful people. What's up? It's July 30th, which means we have been hosting these Ask Me Anything sessions for 10 weeks. 20 weeks of quarantine and not being able to do things in our studio. Very lonely for the extroverts of the world, which is myself. Maybe, I don't know about David. David's sometimes extrovert, maybe ambivert.
No, never.
Never. I mean, we speak the truth at the Ask Me Anything. So y'all, welcome. Thanks for being with us. I'm so pleased to be here with you today in particular. Of course, to my Zoom right, which may not be yours, is David, our Chief Edge Officer here at Edge Studio. If you have not met him, he's just a true delight. And to my Zoom left, my dear friend, wonderful home studio specialist, Dan Friedman. He is joining us as our guest star for today. So we are gonna try to gear this session as much as possible to home studio stuff. We do a lot of home studio talking here, and we are very blessed to have Dan donating his time to be with you all. So what a wonderful thing. With that said, the way this is going to work is the way it always does. I will try to get to you as best as I can. I'm having you be muted because that's the way the world works. It's not because I don't love you. I do. You're going to pop whatever questions you'd like to ask Dan into the chat, and I will facilitate the questions over to him. I will do my darndest to get to everyone. If I don't get to you, again, it's not because I don't love you. It's just because, you know, it's 2020. The world is chaos. If you ask multiple questions, and I'll maybe get to one of yours so that I can try to get to everybody else. So I think that's pretty much it. Steve, welcome from New Jersey. Great to see you. Letting more people in the waiting room. We've opened up our Zoom to fit hundreds of people, so that's a beautiful thing. David, how are you doing?
Swell.
Great.
Dandy. Yeah, so excited to have another one of these Ask Me Anythings. And you know, Siobhan, I was thinking about it. I think yesterday, our first Ask Me Anything was done at the studio in Studio A, right?
Yes, it was.
Right before quarantine.
That's true. So technically, this is like 11 sessions.
Yeah, right.
Right.
And it's still really fun. This has really become a highlight of my week.
Mine too. And I think it was fun, David, to sit next to you and be pals in the studio back when you could sit next to someone and be their friend. Whew, I remember those days. But I will still take, you know, it's 2020, you take what you can get. So I will still, having you in this space with me is truly wonderful. And it's great to see, oh my gosh, my people in Atlanta, and my people in Jersey, my people in Florida, and Canada. I love my Canadians. If you have single people who want to marry me for the healthcare, let me know about that. And Joe in New York City, my very good friend. Okay, so let's hop into the things. Dan, how are you doing in Asheville today?
Well, you know, there's no other place I'd rather live at this time, that's for sure. I have my beautiful, home that's a cabin-like in the woods. Of course, Shaban has been here, and we've hung out together and worked together here in my studio before. So Shaban knows what it's like over here. It's beautiful. I love it, and I'm doing very well, all things considered, of course.
All things considered, of course. So with that in mind, yeah, we are here to create a positive space and have everybody, you know, be pals and talk about all things voiceover. David's always like, do you like, can you just, you know, clarify, ask me anything, voiceover, you know, voiceover. That's what we're here to talk about primarily. So I'm going to pop into this chat, and I think I already see Amy, if you want to say a little bit more, okay, what level of mic is needed from studios to do a remote session?
Right. I know, does it have to be broadcast quality? I've heard, I have a Blue Yeti. It seems to sound pretty good. But if I get booked for a session, are they going to say, sorry, you don't have the right kind of mic? Like, what is going to keep me competitive? Thank
Sure.
you.
Good question. First of all, I would say if you're using the Blue Yeti, like the Pro, for instance, is both USB compatible as well as XLR compatible. I would use it in XLR mode as opposed to USB mode because you will get better quality from that. More important than your mic, though, is your environment. The microphone is actually always picking up two things: you as the performer and also the environment in which you are in. So even with and I'm not going to say one way or the other what I think of the Yeti so much, just to say that, even with a lesser quality mic, if you have a great sounding environment, you can make that work. So it's really about the space that you're in that matters a lot more. And the only way to know for sure, and you're right to understand that it is about being competitive against the people. How do you sound compared to the other people that are also submitting auditions? Best thing to do there is, send me or send Edge a sample. We can do a checkup, or we can do a one-on-one, and we can listen to your stuff. And I've heard thousands of talent in thousands of spaces, different setups in my 20 years of doing this. So I'll know right away like what needs to be improved, or if there needs to be any improvements, and how you would probably stack up against a lot of other people.
It's amazing that Dan's been doing this for 20 years when he's only 25. It's just incredible to me.
What's more amazing that I have an 18-year-old son than no, I got started really early.
Parents, you're brave people.
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
So I've got John, my sweet, sweet John, who's asking about a lot of advice out there to rent mics to audition in a home studio. Here in New York City, I'm having a hard time finding mic rentals. Any suggestions?
Yeah, I would imagine so. One of the things that just makes it so difficult right now is, of course, people are probably a little unwilling to have you speaking in a microphone that is a rental, right? This is just trying times. I mean, let's just face it, it's different. We don't get to compare microphones and try a bunch of different microphones out like we normally would want to, all those things. So, one microphone that I say everybody should try is the Sennheiser MK4, large diaphragm condenser microphone. It's about $300, so it's not going to break the bank. And one of the things about that particular microphone is I've heard it on many people, and as a nearly $300 mic, it sounds excellent. So I would say that, at least try it out. See how it works for you. I will never, ever say that any particular microphone is perfect for everybody. And again, it does have a lot to do with the space that you're in, the environment that you're working in. That makes the bigger difference. But at that price, microphones don't really lose their value when they're good quality microphones like that. So I would say, give that one a shot. And you might just find it's a perfect option for you.
Let me add on to that, though. I would be concerned, frightened, in fact, if you are renting a microphone, because if you submit an audition on one particular microphone, and then the casting team says, yeah, we like this guy, we like his sound, let's hire him, and then you can't get that same microphone, you end up getting a different microphone, you may sound different. And that's not necessarily fair to the casting team, right? I think at that point, you are possibly misrepresenting yourself when you submit an audition. So I think I can't understand why you would not just purchase a microphone, especially if Dan is suggesting a $300 microphone. I would just purchase rather than rent.
Yeah, and I would also say, you shouldn't probably be submitting auditions at all if you're just renting equipment and trying it out at this point anyway. You want to make sure that, you've got your studio settled before you're even trying to get work. I'm really a big advocate for not even jumping into the pool until you're ready to swim. Because, you don't want to put yourself out there, especially in this competitive environment, to where, when you're not really ready. That would be a terrible thing to do. You're going to end up hurting yourself more than helping yourself. So make sure that you're really fully good to go before you really try and start competing for jobs.
So to that end, Sony is asking about, they have a higher voice and is asking if there is a way to sample mics to find one that suits your voice. Is the quality of your voice something that factors in with a microphone?
I mean, it does, but what we're really looking for in voiceover microphones is accuracy in the way they pick up your sound and clarity. So, how you sound is how we want you to sound. And then, when an engineer is working with your audio, what we expect to get from you is an accurate representation of how you sound in your space. Higher voices, lower voices. I'm really looking for accuracy in a microphone, how that truly represent you, because I can do so much in post to adjust for those things. And remove sibilance or add sibilance, all that stuff, for just as an example. Take out low end, add warmth if I need to. I have a lot of ability, and as all engineers do, to do those kinds of things. So, I want a microphone that's going to represent you accurately. That's more important to me.
So Dan, what about a couple of certain genres like promos and using a shotgun?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, obviously I'm on a 416 right now, but that happens to also be my regular microphone. It's what I really use for everything, because I've heard myself on all these different microphones. And I know that in my environment that I'm working in, and for my voice, this one just makes it pop. It just makes it sound the best. I've tried them all. I have 40 microphones in my collection. Not all are voiceover microphones, obviously, but I've had access to some really expensive microphones over the years that I've tried in here, not just industry standards. And then I have a bunch in my collection. And, for voiceover work, this one suits me best. So this is the one I use. And really, you want consistency, across the board. So you want to sound consistent this year as you will next year or the year before. Because as I say a lot of times, think about it. If you get an ongoing client, somebody that, which is our bread and butter, I'll just be honest, the clients that you get to stick with you for year after year after year, those are the ones that really make your voiceover career a career. It's not the one-offs. It's not the national gig that you get, every so often. It's not, those things are all great and they're fun and they're prestigious and, they have some cachet to them. But really, it's the client that keeps coming back month after month after month. That's what makes your career. And you want to sound consistent for them. If you're doing an auto group, for instance, and they're doing a 4th of July sale, for instance, they may, use the same beginning and end this year that they use next year and the year after that. And the only thing that'll change is the offer, like the car that they're promoting that particular 4th of July. So, you actually want to keep that session year after year so that when you pull that up, you've got that donut ready to go. And then you can just fill in the insert of the of that year's offer, and it should sound consistent as it did the previous year. So, when you find a microphone that you love and your space is where it needs to be, and the only thing to really improve after that is just keep getting better. Keep seeing me for coaching. Keep getting to the training that you need, just keep getting better and better. But sound consistent. Consistency is so critically important.
So 2 things. What that means is always keep your microphones, everyone. When you upgrade one day to a higher quality microphone, don't sell your old one. And I strongly encourage you every time you have a job to write down, to note somewhere which microphone you use and which equipment you use and what settings you used. So in Dan's example, if you're hired to re-record just a portion of a script, whether it be a week later or a year later or 3 years later, you can go and look at your notes and say, oh yeah, for this client, for this script, I used this microphone with these settings, and then you can recreate that same session. That is really important.
Yeah, and a lot of DAWs have spaces for notes right on the track. So
Right.
use those tracks, and not to mention the fact that the sessions, I have sessions on my computer still that are from 2012. I save everything. So if I pull up a set, even though that, I've had, different levels of my DAW, I start, when I started in here, it was like Cubase 6 or something, and I'm up to Cubase 10 now. But, it pulls up all those old sessions, no problem. And all the settings are the same. The plugins that I used are the same if I'm doing a full production on something. So that's really helpful. It's one of the best things about digital editing and working in the digital domain, is that everything comes up just as it should. But also you can include notes, how far away from the mic you were and things like that, usually right on the track that you're working in. So many people neglect to read a lot of the things that are available to them on their DAWs, from the numbers of checking levels to what knobs certain knobs do. But our job is to read and communicate, and it's also to use that information to help us. In now and in the future, and also when you're communicating with others about what it is that you're doing.
This is sort of on the same level, and maybe you've kind of touched on this. Oh, first thing, Dan, what is the name of the microphone that you mentioned? People are asking, I think they don't know how to spell it.
Sure. Sennheiser, Sennheiser, MK4. And I like the XLR version the best. And that is a large diaphragm condenser microphone that most people that I recommend it to have had a lot of success with. And I think at that price point, it's pretty tough to beat. And like I said, the nice thing about microphones, especially a microphone that comes from a company that is as reputable as Sennheiser, is it's not going to lose value. So let's say 5 years down the road, you decide voiceover is no longer a part of your repertoire, you can probably sell it for nearly what you paid for it.
And I did drop that in the chat, so you can copy and paste, or of course save the chat at the end. And to that point, Dan, Michelle is asking if you can talk about the difference between a shotgun mic and a large diaphragm condenser, and when you would choose to use each, or if you would just use one and not the other.
Sure. Well, again, it's largely about your kind of personal preference. I think for beginners, large diaphragm condensers are a little bit easier to use, simply because emotion follows motion, and we use a lot of motion in our voiceover work, especially when we're just starting out. We really need to kind of be over the top with how animated we are. So that means I might be turning my head, or moving off axis from the mic a little bit. And a large diaphragm condenser has what's called a cardioid polar pattern, so it's going to pick you up really nice even if you're moving around. But even just me moving around on this microphone, it has a much more narrow pattern. It's much more focused. So if I move off mic too far, you probably can't hear me so well over there as you can right here. It's probably a pretty significant difference in the way you're hearing it. So that's one of the biggest reasons to use the large diaphragm condenser early on, is it gives you that freedom of movement. I've been doing this 20 years. I pretty much know to stay still, or at least to keep my head still, and I still do all the other crazy stuff, right? When I'm teaching, when I'm coaching people, I have 4 elements of physicality that are really important to use in your voiceover work. And, it doesn't really involve moving my head around so much. But there's definitely movement involved, and definitely motion that we want to incorporate, because it's really important.
Okay, so Joe is asking, do you think we should generally always do some basic editing before sending an audition, such as compression, normalizing, NR, etc.?
I think that depends largely on who you are and your capability with those things. I would say if you don't really feel comfortable using compression or equalization or any of those things, there's a good chance that that might be too intimidating for you, or that you might make it sound worse than it was originally. I definitely think, cutting out mistakes is important for sure. One of the biggest things that most people don't have and that they don't even realize is so important is a good listening environment. So using compression and EQ may not be very helpful to you if you can't really listen to your stuff accurately. That's the difference between, a space like mine and a space that most of you have. I mean, this is a full production space. I can do full productions right here where I also do my voiceover work. And if you don't have a good listening environment, then you can't really hear everything that you need to hear. And headphones kind of lie to you a little bit because, of course, we don't really listen to our world with these speakers pressed up against our ears. We hear in real world situation. So if you don't have a good listening environment, that's a detriment, obviously, to being able to do some of that stuff accurately, but also just your knowledge. If you're not comfortable using compression and EQ, then I wouldn't. If you feel moderately comfortable with it and you know that you're making subtle improvements, then go ahead and do that. But the key to that, what I just said, was subtle. We still want you to sound like you. So the more dramatic or the more aggressive you use any processing, it's going to alter the reality. And you don't really want to alter that reality. You should still sound like you.
So this is a specific equipment question from Susie, who just bought a Rode NT1 and an XU 1648 interface. Not sure if that was a good choice. Would you recommend this piece of equipment?
I think that the most important thing is it kind of depends again on kind of where you are in the process. I would say that, if you're buying that equipment, then you're probably just starting out. And I think that for right now, that's probably fine for while you're getting coaching and while you're learning how to improve as a performer and all of that stuff. Will you be competitive with it? I can't really say because there are more factors involved. Like I would want to hear it for myself so I can say, oh, this interface happens to be a little noisy or something like that. I know that the Rode is a very quiet microphone. So I don't think that if you had noise in your system, it would be coming from the Rode. Without hearing the rest, I can't really tell you, give you a complete answer. And I don't want to give you, I don't want to say perfect, right? Because I don't know, like there's other factors involved that it just wouldn't be fair for me to say that it's perfect for you until I actually heard it myself.
So this is a booth question from Larry. When treating a 6x4 booth, do you have thoughts on acoustic foam versus Owens Corning 703 fiberboard?
Well, one of the things that I will say, anytime you're using a Whisper Room or a Studio Bricks booth or any of those things, they do come with, some acoustic foam. And I think that all of them seem to need a bit more than what they actually come with. But I will say that as far as the economics of it go, it is always less expensive and more effective to build your own acoustic panels. And in fact, I have a quick video on my YouTube channel on how to do exactly that. And the acoustic panels that I build on the YouTube channel, it's like 1 minute and 20 seconds. It goes by very fast. I have 2 clouds hanging above me right here on either side. They're 22-inch square clouds. And I actually show you how to build those. Way more cost effective because you can get a whole lot more mineral wool or Owens Corning 703, make some wooden frames. It'll cost what you could spend $100 on an acoustic foam. You might get, a few sheets or a few square feet versus what you can do. You can get many square feet of acoustic treatment for $100 worth of materials and work.
Dan, is your YouTube channel Sound for VO?
Everything for me is sound the number 4 VO. So if you that's my website, that's a lot of my social media stuff. It's if you look for that on YouTube, you'll find me. And I encourage you all to check that out, share it with folks. It's not often I outwardly promote myself, but here's the opportunity to do that. So, please, check it out. And if you find it helpful, please do share it with others so that they can be helped by it too.
I will also, through Edge's socials, share that specific video because it sounds like that would be helpful to everyone. This is a little bit more performance question, but Dan also coaches to demo for students in performance as well. And Terry's saying that they have a question about some issues regarding recording with no audience. I find it hard to get enthused and be my best performer when there's no audience in front of me.
Wow. That is so odd. It's kind of the opposite, right, of most people. Most people are afraid of audiences. But I get it because I actually started singing and I, unfortunately this whole COVID thing has ruined it for me to a certain extent, but I actually have been performing with a rock band prior to this happening and singing. And it's been just the greatest thrill. And to be able to sing in front of people has been just amazing. And I never even did karaoke, prior to this. I mean, and in fact, I won't really do karaoke. I only want to perform with a band. Anyway, there's a couple things you can definitely do. First of all, one of the keys to what we do is to make sure you are using the appropriate facial expressions. So if you need to smile, smile big. That'll really help. Also stand. Make sure you're standing instead of sitting because we always bring more energy to the table when we're standing as opposed to sitting. Obviously if it's like a long form narration or it's an audio book, then that would be a little bit different. You wouldn't want to necessarily stand for that. But, if you need to bring the energy quick, that's a good way to do it. And also, think about things that motivate you. I make an analogy a lot with my students about, how we have to make the emotions of a script applicable to things in our own life. So for instance, I love grilling and cooking. And as a matter of fact, I have a cheesecake in the oven right now that I baked myself for the first time ever. I'm really, proud of this. I'm making it for my wife's best friend for her birthday. Anyway, I love cooking for my friends. I especially love having a big party out my backyard and grilling and stuff like that. So if I need to be motivated, if I need to get that energy going, right, I just need to think about those things that motivate me and excite me. And singing on stage would be another one. One of the things that I'm finding in singing is so many parallels to voiceover work in particular, and especially drawing upon emotion because, if you can't, you got to deliver a song. You got to communicate a song. And that's what we are as voice actors. We are communicators, first and foremost. Yes, we persuade. Yes, we inform. Yes, we entertain. Yes, we sell. Yes, we do all those things. But what we do most and above all else is communicate. And that's what we have to keep in mind. And that takes a whole lot more than just the words on the page.
Let me follow up with that. So this is an anecdote. It's very appropriate. And there's it's really a good message I'm about to share. However, the story has a really bad, sad ending. And you'll appreciate this. So I was in a recording session. I was directing a voice actor. And the guy scotch taped a picture of his child, of like an 8-year-old child, to up in front of him when he was reading at the studio. And he said, if I don't see this 8-year-old kid in front of me, then I won't have the warmth that I need. Oh, and by the way, I should state this. He was reading a script that was intended for 8, 9, and 10-year-old kids. And he had a collection of photographs of different aged people, single people, large groups of people. And he just, as a voice actor, he would always put up this picture, whatever was appropriate. So he actually really did speak to someone. And He sounded great. That's the good side of the story. The bad thing is that he scotch taped the photograph of his 8-year-old child to our microphone, to like a $3,000 microphone without asking. So we never hired him again. We were really upset with that. So obviously you don't want to get tape gunk on an engineer's microphone, like Dan with his collection of 40 microphones. I mean, these microphones are our babies, and you don't want to go and mar anyone's microphone. But the concept is terrific, and all of you can do that. If you have to talk to a 20-year-old, a 50-year-old, a group of people, a single person, whatever it is, find a photograph of them if it's helpful, and really literally talk to that person.
Yeah, and I also heard the kind of the opposite too, where people actually have a collection of pictures of people that they choose to be. Like, I'm going to be this guy today. I'm going to be this guy today. That's personally, that's too a little woo-woo for me. I'm not really, you know, I don't know. It doesn't work for me personally, but it works for some people. And, you know, that's the thing about coaching that I love so much is that, you know, one thing will really resonate with one person, whereas then, and it might not, that same instruction may not resonate or flip the switch for another person. So my job as a coach that I feel is most important, especially when working with people that are new to the business, is I have to find out what turns you on. You know, what is it that flips that switch for you? Because I could explain it one way for one person and they're going to get it. But if it doesn't work for another person, then I have to find that other thing that flips that switch for you. And I've been doing this for a decade now of coaching, and of course 20 years of directing and all of that. So I like that. I get really charged, and it actually gets me very excited when a student goes, it's like the light bulb went off, you know, or whatever they say. That just, I get so excited when something connects with somebody where they're like, that's going to change my world.
I love
it happened yesterday, in fact. So, you know, it was pretty cool.
I love the two, like, BYO muse when you're recording somewhere, like put it on your own thing, not in the actual studio. But I think yeah, there's a lot of different ways to find that motivation, especially when you're around less people than ever, really, during the time that we are in. And speaking to a little bit of that, we're talking about, and also my, for all my parents, and, you know, jazz hands for my parents in the house today. You guys are all awesome. Aaron, I don't see all your children, and I'm just hoping, are they okay? Like, I miss them. But so Josh is asking, for recommendations for someone who is coming from a younger age, getting into the VO community. I don't know how old Joshua is, but he says that he has the equipment and a setup, but how or where should he get started?
I'm actually 17, so I'm getting close to adulthood, so that's fun.
Welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for making it to adulthood, or nearly. Yeah, don't start. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally joking. You know, first of all, you know, one of the things that, you know, at this age that I think is really important is your acting skills, because my kids did a lot of voiceover as kids. And one of the big challenges came when their voices changed and that teenage ennui set in. Oh, it was so fun. You know, they kind of like, they weren't cute anymore, you know? And when you lose the cuteness factor as a kid, that's really all you have to do as a kid, is to be cute. But, you know, when your voice changes and you're competing with dad, then you have to be good. You know, you can't just be cute anymore. So my kids really don't do voiceover work any longer. They've moved on to other things, and there's things that are more important in their life. But for you, you know, one of the... And the point of all that is, you know, it just doesn't excite them in the same way. Clearly, this excites you. You're here, you're 17, you're a part of this, you know. So this excites you, and that's awesome. Keep that excitement, because that's what's going to keep motivating you. That's going to keep driving you forward. Obviously, you need good coaching. Because you don't know what you don't know, no matter what age you are. So that's really important. So whether you work with me or somebody else, you know, you definitely want to get that coaching, because that's part of the other part of coaching, is it's a lot of your network, you know. coaches can introduce you to other people, or recommend organizations or production houses, things like that, to kind of help you get your foot in the door. Reaching out to a big agent is not what you want to be doing just now, most likely, because I don't know your situation. I don't know if you even have demos yet or anything like that. But, usually a good place to start is more of the local production houses that are kind of regional, doing a lot of regional work, things like that, so that you're not trying to compete with the big national campaigns of the world, but you are definitely getting your feet wet in a little bit smaller pool. And then, if you start having some success, then you can really start to, reach out to bigger people. They need young voices. That will always be the case. In fact, young voices are hot right now. It's just the way it is. And, makes me sad to be an old person. But nonetheless, that you're heading in the right direction. You're clearly showing the motivation and the interest in it. So the most important thing for you is coaching, so you can get a good foundation on the things that you have right now. And I'm sure maybe you've taken acting in high school and things like that, and I'm sure that that's a big part of it too. But voice acting is, it's another animal for sure. One of the biggest shocks to me was when I did on-camera acting classes for 3.5 years, and I was way too animated because the camera sees everything, right? I mean, if I raise an eyebrow, the camera spots that, and it does, makes it come off a lot different. But as a voice actor, I'm raising eyebrows and all kinds of stuff all the time, so I'm kind of miserable at on camera. So, there's there's a different skill set for different levels of acting, whether it be theater or on camera or voice acting or, anything else.
So let me piggyback on that and throw in 2 more thoughts, because what Dan has said is so right on the spot. One is if you do take acting lessons, focus on film acting rather than stage acting, because voiceover and film are much more closely related. But the other thing is, getting into this industry, there are so many different directions you can go that you probably want one of your first coaching sessions, or even your first coaching session, to work with a coach who can help you find your place in this industry. I mean, you might be better at children's work, or maybe not children's work, maybe documentaries, or maybe commercials, or maybe both, maybe neither. Get an evaluation. There are a lot of folks out there who have terrific voices and are complimented all of the time on their voice, but they can't read well, and they will never be successful in voiceover. And maybe that's the case with you. Maybe you can read really wonderfully and take direction. And so I think working with someone who can help sort of assess you, figure out if and where you would belong best or be most marketable in this industry would be a logical next step. And certainly, any of us at Edge can help you with that. It's actually really fun to do that, to work with someone and just say, help them figure out, is there a path for you, and what would that path look like? And then move into the coaching, as Dan suggested. So that's my 2 cents.
And also keeping in mind that as that coaching progresses, you might discover that you like something a little bit better than what you thought you liked originally. So it can change along the way. And of course, being diverse is really one of the most important things we can do anyway, being versatile. And, you'll learn all that stuff through coaching, just the experience of it all.
I know this is a Q&A with you guys. I want to say thank you, first of all. This is amazing. I actually got an evaluation from you, David, a year ago before, and you actually inspired me to follow this passion originally, because I remember you had said that, you should do this, and I've been doing it. I've been on using websites, looking up all this stuff, doing my research. But I haven't done the coaching. So thank you guys for that recommendation.
Oh yeah. So what's your last name?
Heard.
Oh, I remember you. I remember your name. Yeah. That's good to see you again.
It's great to see you too.
The last thing I'll say, Josh, is at the end, I have everybody drop in their social media handles in the chat. And then I do a post on Friday where I tag everybody who came to the AMA, and following people and just being part of, we used to have mixers where people could be friends and meet, and just having VO pals, I feel like is a huge part of, you already said community in your question, so you already get it. But that's something, it's an effort I'm trying to make, you know, in lieu of like things we used to do, conferences and things that we don't have anymore. It's just the kind of online, I mean, VO feeds on my Instagram, I much prefer to many other kinds of content these days. So it's something we're trying to do, and make sure that you are a part of that as well.
And everybody here is welcome to reach out to me on social media too, Facebook, Instagram. I'm Dan4VO on Instagram, LinkedIn, all that stuff. Just, you know, always happy to be, you know, there for you.
To be a friend, but cannot do too much services of his free time.
That's right. Just don't abuse me.
So yes, this is a protective, you know, of my friend Dan. There is a really interesting question about AI that is, okay, Dan, do you have a sense of the impact of AI machine-generated voice apps on any part of the business?
Yeah, don't worry about it yet. It's too new. It still sounds very robotic. And, you know, I think ultimately what's going to happen is that will find its place. But I don't think it's ever going to take the actor out of the equation. I mean, let's compare it to music, for instance. You know, synthesizers and all that stuff came out a long time ago, and there's still humans behind it. You know, there's still humans behind all that stuff, even if it's electronic music. There will be a place for us. There will always be a place for us. So don't sweat it. And especially don't sweat it now. Maybe I'll eat my words 20 years from now. I hope not. But, you know, they need us. People need people. They always will.
Dan, do you recommend a MacBook Air or MacBook Pro?
I use a MacBook Pro, but that's not to say that a MacBook Air might not work for you. I think, you know, I use a MacBook Pro because, you know, some of the stuff that I do can be, when I'm traveling, can be production heavy. But I don't recommend a laptop in your home studio personally. I think the ergonomics of it are difficult compared to having a desktop computer. I mean, I have old eyes, you know. I need a 27-inch screen to work at 4 feet away, you know. So and also a dedicated keyboard, and I use a trackball mouse. Like the ergonomics of it in a desktop compared to a laptop makes you just so much more efficient and faster in getting the job done. I'm not a big, you know, I mean, obviously a laptop is great for travel, but, you know, I'm very much about being Zen-like as much as anything else goes when it comes to putting a studio together and things like that. And comfort and convenience are really important to me. I've been editing for 20 years. I'm fast at it, but I hate it. You know, I mean, it's not the fun part of the job at all. It's not the creative part. It's not the acting part. It's not the part that jazzes me, right? I want to get the editing done as quickly and efficiently as possible and move on to the fun stuff. So that's where the ergonomics really comes in to play because, of course, editing is a big part of what we're doing and takes up a vast majority of our time in many cases. So I am definitely about having a good ergonomic, comfortable situation to work in.
For beginners, we get this question probably every time, and so either Dan or David can tackle this, but from Dione, for new people, and all my new people, this is for you, what are the essential equipment pieces recommended to get started? What do you need for your basic beginner to get going?
A basic beginner can get away with a USB mic and a computer. I personally, you know, would much prefer that you go ahead and be a little forward thinking in that and go ahead and get an XLR type microphone with a separate interface and preamp, and then your computer, and then obviously headphones and things like that. And the reason I say that is just because, again, it's forward thinking. You have much more control and better sound quality typically when you're using an XLR type microphone and a separate interface. But an absolute beginner can get away with anything that allows you to record and hear yourself back and do some basic editing.
In studio sessions from Dina, my dear friend Dina, their 416 can be 14 to 20 inches away, but I'm normally about 6 from mine. I like the quality of closer. What are they gaining from being further away?
Well, you do have to remember that the 416 has traditionally been used at a distance. You know, it initially started as a microphone that was found on boom poles and mounted to cameras for capturing dialogue from a distance on video and or TV and movie shoots and things like that. You know, the biggest thing is control, again, being closer. You can, you know, really work the proximity a little bit by being, you know, the closer up I get, the more resonance it's going to get and things like that. You know, but ultimately, the engineer has to decide what the sound is that they're looking for, and sometimes that might be a distant sound, especially if you're going to be shouting a lot, things like that. You know, it has a lot to do with context. You know, I know that usually in commercial work, for instance, you have a lot of dialogue type commercials, at least back in, you know, when we were very creative and things like that with this stuff, husband and wife talking in the same environment. Well, now, of course, nobody's in the same environment. People are, you know, spread across the country. And ultimately, as an engineer, if I'm doing that type of production, I have to make this conversation sound like it's happening in the same room. So I need as much control as possible, and I need you to sound as accurate as possible so that I can have that control. So, you know, a lot of it has to do with setting and what context is the final production going to take place in. Sometimes that really is at a distance. So it just depends on what they're going for.
Okay, sorry, I'm like, it's been so exciting up here. I'm trying to find my people. Oh, okay, this is a good one. Dan, and I relate to this, Nicole. She says, Dan, I am nervous about being my own sound engineer. What courses do you recommend to help someone that has this concern? Does Edge provide services to do the sound engineering for voiceover talent?
Well, you know, I think that is something that, first of all, I can help you with. It's definitely something that I can help you out a lot with. One of the things I just want to put this in a little perspective for you. And I know that this may not be something that you can really relate to, but I do want you to understand it's not as hard as you think, number one. And number two is it's certainly not as hard as it was 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. You have to remember that this is a visual medium now and that we can see our waveforms. Well, when I started, I was cutting tape with a razor blade, you know, and we couldn't see anything. You had to use your ears for everything, which is what we should still be doing today. Even though it's a visual medium, we really do have to be listening, because once it's no longer a visual medium and it leaves your studio, nobody else is looking at your waveforms. They're only listening. So it's really important to keep that in mind. It's actually a lot easier than you think. Your most important responsibility as far as engineering yourself is getting good levels and recording with a good position on the microphone and just sounding, you know, the best that you can. You're just a recording engineer, which, and I don't mean to say just a recording engineer, but there's different types of engineers. There's recording engineers, there's mixing engineers, there's mastering engineers. You're only expected to be one of those, and that's just a recording engineer. And your job as a recording engineer is to capture the best possible sound to tape as possible. And it's a lot easier to do than it's ever been. Again, I can certainly help you with that.
How do you know when it's time to move to a different mic?
I guess only you can really answer that. I mean, maybe never, you know? Again, consistency is so important, which is kind of why I do recommend, you know, starting out instead of getting a USB mic to start off, you know, start off with something that's already of somewhat level of quality, which is why I recommended the microphone that I did earlier, because that is literally a $300 microphone that might last you your entire career, you know? So, you know, it's very difficult to say if you should upgrade, whether it's necessary to upgrade. You know, the biggest thing is, how do you sound compared to other people? And this is why I recommend that all 99 plus of you get to know one another and all share files with each other from your studios so that you know how you sound in comparison to all your buddies. And if you don't sound as good, then you know that you have to make some improvements. If you sound good compared to all the rest of your 98 other friends, then you may not have to do anything. But remember, that is the context. The context is, how do I sound compared to the other people who are also submitting for these jobs? If you're just sitting in your own bubble, you probably don't really know whether you sound good or not. But one thing that can help you is listen to your stuff in your car. Your car is often a really great listening environment, and every single, record that you've heard, every single song that you've heard in your life has probably been listened to in a car before it has ever made it to your ears. So how does your studio sound? First of all, take a recording from your studio and listen to it in your car and see, because that's where a lot of our listening is done. And for many people, that's the best listening and best listening environment they have. But you'll certainly be able to identify things like, do I hear room reflections? Oh, I know I'm supposed to keep these answers short, but I get off on bunny trails. It's not until you change your environment until you really realize what's going on in there. I can remember when we went from carpeted floors in our living room to hardwood floors in our living room. I was in my bedroom and I was just like, holy shit, our refrigerator sounds like that. Forgive the blue language, but it was very, like ear opening. I was like, wow, I had no idea the refrigerator was that loud until I heard it reflecting off of the new hardwood floors. It's just one of those situations where, you don't always know until you listen to it in a different context, or in comparison to other people.
I'm jumping around questions because I'm trying with the last few minutes to find things that might apply to larger groups of people. Gaston, I really hope you, with your French name, that you are talking to us from France, because that's very cool. Is the Chaotica eyeball the best option for recorders on the go? I think on the go gear is probably a good subject to hit. Is there another recommended alternative besides using pillows and building a sound fort? LOL.
I would say forego the first option that you mentioned that I won't even verbalize, and make your pillow fort. Make your pillow fort. That's actually the best option. I want you to take this information. I don't like to say bad things about products, and I rarely promote something unless I really believe in it. But I want you to understand that a microphone is picking up you. It would be better to put one of those over your head than it would be to put over the head of a microphone. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's just not. I'll leave it.
From Taft, and either one or both of you can answer this question. How has the pandemic affected the EDGE training program? Do you feel that students are able to learn and integrate the material and techniques remotely? Want to start with you, Dan?
Yeah, I'll just say that, hey, this is voiceover. I don't need to see you. I don't need to be in the same room with you. I hear stuff that you can't even believe I hear. I hear you thinking. I do. Ask any of my students. I hear when you are thinking. And I hear what you are thinking. Some of it scares the hell out of some of them. They're just like, how did you know? Because I've been doing this 20 years. That's how I know. And this is voiceover. We don't need to see you. All we need to do is hear you. Just like I would be listening to a commercial on television, or like I would be listening to a promo on TV, or listening to a commercial on the radio. I don't see that actor, and I don't need to see you now. I like to, because I love you people and I enjoy the interaction, and all that stuff is really great. But that's by choice. That's not because I have to. I can do everything I need to do just by listening to you.
And the other thing about that is training remotely, in other words, training by Skype or Zoom or whatever, is more realistic. Because when you work as a voice actor, it's so uncommon to be brought into a commercial studio, even before the pandemic. was very uncommon to be brought into a studio. Typically, you, the voice actor, would record from home, and a client might call on the phone or Skype with you and give you direction by telephone or Skype or whatever. So training remotely is very realistic. Training in person with a coach is just not realistic. And over the years, we've had a lot of students who say things like, look, I really want to be face to face with my coach. I can't take direction by phone. Like, I need to be face to face. Those people, we say, even more so need to train remotely, because if you have a hard time taking direction by phone, then you really need to practice that way so you are capable of doing it. So when you get your first job and some director or client, from around the world directs you by phone, you need to be able to adapt to it and be ready for it. So yeah, training remotely is terrific.
Even when I worked for a production studio, 80% of the talent that I worked with at that production studio, I never met face to face. In fact, if we didn't occasionally have a company party where we invited people to come out, I wouldn't have even known what they looked like. I mean, it's pretty shocking to, of course, wow, you don't sound anything like you look, right? Imagine working with these people, for years and years and years, and then meeting them for the first time. I mean, it's happened, 85% of the talent I worked with when I worked for a production studio, I hadn't even ever met face to face, maybe even still to this day for a lot of them. Obviously earlier on, we met more people because they were actually coming into the studio, but that was rare. I mean, that became very rare in the last 7 years or 8 years that I worked there. Even the local talent worked from home.
Yeah, so I want to speak to that too, because I have, I've worked in the education department at Edge, but also have been a student, and I've recorded 3 demos, and I've worked with Dan on home studio remote work as well. And I feel that it's important that these are things that were part of our program before the pandemic, where we've had students all over the place. And for my friends in Singapore and my friends in Nigeria, you can absolutely work with us, and we will find ways to make sure that we get sessions with you. We have a lot of coaches and who work with flexible hours. The other thing about our work at Edge is that we have our education team is this series of education advisors who work with you one-on-one. It's just like, it's having your own personal, it's someone who gets to know you and knows what your needs are and what you're trying to do. So people are asking, like, how do I find the right coach? What do I do? That's something at Edge that we pay a lot of attention to. And I know that because I used to do it. I used to work with people and match them with someone who would really suit their skills, their needs, their personality. And on the subject of, Johnny Heller, he's been here with us. He is a fantastic audiobook narrator who also, like Dan, hates editing, struggles with this kind of stuff, and does a fantastic job. And when I'm working with Johnny, he's always like, you know what, if I can do it, anybody can do it. Like, we can all do this. We can all overcome these home studio hurdles, even though they suck or they stress us out, or, there's a lot of amazing complex questions in the chat. And to that end, I want to say, we, as always, are offering a little gifty, which is this $25 off. Let me make sure it's to everyone in the meeting. If you use the code AMA with this link right here, you can get $25 off any coaching session with us at Edge, be that with David or be that with Dan. But Dan is your guy for your home studio specialty. So if you want to mess around with any of these complicated things, like, is this mic good for my voice? Is this working? What is this? The best way to really get into these nitty gritty details that we're kind of brushing over in this session is to just get on the phone with Dan. And as you can see, he's a love, he's charming, he's hilarious. It's a really good time, and will actually boost you and make you feel better about the stuff that is giving you agita right now. So
Yeah,
I encourage you.
one thing about that, confidence. Confidence is the common thread in everything we do in voiceover. Even if your character is not confident, you have to play that confidently. So confidence is so important, and that's what you gain by working with us, whether it be in your studio or your performance.
And to that end, on social media, yes, I see people already doing it. Please drop in your Instagram, your Twitter handles, whatever they are. I will save them in the chat, and I will post everybody tomorrow to make sure we're all following each other. If you want to speak to me directly and like, Siobhan, I want a coaching session with Edge, I don't know what I should do. if you DM Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, that's me. Sorry for the wind. You'll be speaking to me, and I will make sure that the education team, my good friends, take good care of you. But yes, give me your handles, and I will make sure everyone's following you, and I will drop Dan's handles in the chat as well. If you are not yet following us, sorry, we have a waiting room still, everyone in the meeting. On Insta, we have two different ones. We are Edge Studio VO, so follow that. And on Twitter, we are simply Edge Studio. So follow us, and then I'll make sure that I've tagged everyone so you don't have to do this work of browsing through the chat. However, if you wish to save your chat, just click on that ellipses on your right-hand corner, and it will give you the option to save the whole dang thing if you need the recommendations that folks were giving. As always, I'm super grateful for the community dialogue that's happening when people ask questions and other people respond to their experience and their ideas and recommendations. We love to see it. And Carrie, I'm so glad this was helpful. We hope that it is. And yeah, and again, I just want to thank my dear friend Dan for taking this time and giving us this time. It's important for us at Edge to try to present some offerings during a year that, you know, is not what a lot of us wanted it to be. So thank you so much for being part of that. And Dan, I put in the chat earlier that we will be doing karaoke with you, and you are going to make us some cheesecake when that happens. So.
Well, Shaban, for you, I would do just about anything. You know it. I love you. And I love all of you out there. Thank you for having me. And if I can be of help in any way, please do reach out to Edge, and they'll get us connected.
Fantastic.
And, yeah, thank you to Siobhan for just being such a terrific facilitator as always. And Dan, thanks so much for joining us. To all of you, you guys rock. Cool. So hope to see you in 2 more weeks. This is every other Thursday at the same time.
He is right. And since today is the 30th, I can't even believe time and space. We'll see you again on the 13th for more questions, all things VO. And we will miss you until then. We're grateful to have you here now. I'm just going to make sure that I save this chat for my own self. You guys are so, so great. And really, it means a lot to us that you're choosing to spend this time with us. And please reach out to me with any questions at all. I'll see you on social media. And hey, be safe, be well, you know, wash your hands, all of that jazz. Mwah.
Take your mics.
Love to all. Stay safe and healthy.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.